I thought my first automotive funeral would be for a 1987 Lada, one of those cars that falls apart if you stare at it too hard. But no. Today we're here to talk about the premature death of a celebrity, a stainless steel colossus that promised to be the vehicle of the apocalypse, and ended up being the joke of the year. Yes, I'm talking about Tesla's Cybertruck, a project so ambitious it seemed like it was written by a science fiction screenwriter from the 80s, and that now faces a reality much more like a low-budget disaster movie. The initial uproar was deafening. Supposedly, 2 million people paid $100 to reserve a piece of this dystopian future. Elon Musk, at the height of his optimism, projected a production of between 250,000 and 500,000 units per year. A figure that was not just ambitious, but downright delusional. But reality, as always, has a terrible sense of humor. Just a few weeks ago, Tesla had to recall nearly 4,000 Cybertrucks due to a faulty accelerator that could get stuck. Imagine speeding along in a 3-ton tank that refuses to stop. It's the perfect metaphor for this entire project. But this isn't just the story of an ugly car that went wrong. No, this goes much deeper. It's a masterclass on unchecked ego, consumer psychology, and the dangers of believing your own hype. It's the chronicle of a foretold death. And to understand how we ended up with this multi-billion-dollar disaster, we're going to unearth 5 ghosts from automotive history. If we had paid attention, they would have warned us that this ending was inevitable. Stick around, because this autopsy is going to be fascinating. Our first stop is in 1948, with a man named Preston Tucker. Tucker was the Elon Musk of the post-war era, only with a fedora hat and without the compulsive need to tweet at 3 in the morning. His creation, the Tucker 48, was a revolutionary vehicle. It had a central headlight that turned with the steering wheel, a windshield designed to pop out in case of a collision, and a padded dashboard. These were ideas decades ahead of their time. Tucker didn't just want to build a car, he wanted to reinvent safety and design. The problem was that his vision collided head-on with the harsh reality of mass production and, according to rumors, with sabotage from Detroit's Big Three. In the end, only 51 Tucker 48s were built before the company collapsed amid federal investigations and legal battles. The lesson here is brutally clear. A brand built entirely on the myth of a visionary founder is incredibly fragile. When the narrative of the lone genius against the world starts to crack, the whole structure comes crashing down. The Cybertruck, more than any other Tesla, was not a product of the company. It was a product of Elon Musk. Its DNA was the ego of its creator, and when the public perception of that creator began to change, the fate of the vehicle was sealed. But if the story of Tucker teaches us about the dangers of dreaming too big, the next one warns us about what happens when ambition collides directly with pure incompetence. Pure. Let's move on to the 1970s, a decade famous for the oil crisis and questionable car designs. Here we meet Malcolm Bricklin, another charismatic entrepreneur who, after making a fortune in other businesses, decided that the world needed his own sports car. The result was the Bricklin SV1, or Safety Vehicle 1. It promised to be the car of the future. Safe, stylish, and with spectacular gull-wing doors. Its development was chaotic, rushed, and funded with millions of dollars from the government of a Canadian province desperate to create jobs. The result? A disaster. The fiberglass panels would crack just by looking at them. The heavy gull-wing doors often refused to open, trapping their owners inside. And the build quality was so bad, it made the Cybertruck look like a piece of Swiss engineering. Only about 2,900 units were produced before the company went under, leaving behind a financial hole and a legacy of ridicule. The SB1 was like that startup that promises to cure cancer with an app. But in the end, it only gives you a wallpaper with a smiley face. A lot of promise. Zero execution. The Cybertruck repeats this pattern. They promised a bulletproof steel exoskeleton, which turned out to be prone to rust and stains. They sold a vision of radical innovation that ended up being a vehicle with basic quality issues, and a design that prioritizes video game aesthetics over real functionality. The marketing lesson is simple. The hype. It may get you bookings and media attention, but if the final product doesn't meet even the most basic expectations, the market will punish you mercilessly. And although these entrepreneurial failures are instructive, the ghost, more revealing. Perhaps it is the story of a large corporation that bet everything on appearances and lost spectacularly. Let's travel back to the early 2000s. Was the economy doing well? Gas was cheap and the mantra was, bigger is better. Bigger is better. In this context, General Motors decided to bring a military icon to the civilian market, the Hummer. Since the original H1 was too rugged for the average consumer, they created the Hummer H2. Basically, it was a Chevrolet Tahoe disguised as a tank. It instantly became a status symbol for celebrities and athletes, and anyone who wanted to shout to the world that they had money to spare. For its fans, it was bold and unapologetically American. For the rest of the world, it was the epitome of excess and insecurity. Driving a Hummer H2 was the automotive equivalent of wearing a t-shirt that says, "Look, I have money and self-esteem issues." The Cybertruck is the 2.0 version of that t-shirt, but in stainless steel that rusts. The H2 sold more than 34,000 units in its best year, but its popularity faded as quickly as it arrived. With rising gas prices and a shift in social consciousness toward eco-friendliness, the Hummer became a joke. By 2009, the brand was dead. The marketing lesson here is about the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times. A product built solely on spectacle and provocation has a very short expiration date. What is cutting edge and cool today is ridiculous and embarrassing tomorrow. Tesla bet that the world wanted a vehicle that looked like it came straight out of Blade Runner. Without asking whether the world really needed a car with such sharp angles, one that seems dangerous for pedestrians and has almost zero rear visibility. These ghosts show us the historical reasons why. But to understand the magnitude of the current disaster, we have to look at today's cold, hard, and absolutely depressing numbers. Let's remember the promise. Between 250,000 and 500,000 Cybertrucks per year. Tesla invested a fortune in a custom assembly line, and it developed a 9,000-ton gigapress, the largest of its kind, just for this vehicle. Everything pointed to an almost delusional confidence in its success. Now the reality. Internal sources and registry analyses indicate that Tesla is producing at best about 5,000 units per quarter. If they manage to keep up that miraculous pace all year, we'd be talking about 20,000 units. 20,000. That's not a deviation from the target. It's a parallel universe. Promising 500,000 and delivering 20,000. It's like promising your partner a trip to the Maldives and ending up taking them to see a movie about the Maldives at the neighborhood theater. And the worst part is that even those few units aren't selling well. There are reports that Tesla has an inventory of nearly 10,000 unsold Cybertrucks, gathering dust and rust in their parking lots. That's almost $1 billion in idle product. It's a failure on a scale that few manufacturers have ever seen. This is a monumental miscalculation. The customer acquisition cost must be astronomical if you consider the investment in research, development, and manufacturing compared to actual sales. They completely underestimated that the market of people willing to drive a $100,000 meme is, in fact, quite small. The numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story either. The coup de grace, the final nail in this stainless steel coffin, wasn't financial, it was cultural. Let's be honest. Tesla's previous successes, the Model S, the 3 and the Y, were disruptive but still operated within market logic. They were electric sedans and SUVs, sleek and high-tech, appealing to an existing market. They innovated in how an electric car was made, not in what a car was. The Cybertruck, on the other hand, doesn't feel like a Tesla product. It feels like a product from SpaceX or the Boring Company. It's a whim. A vanity project designed to satisfy the ego of a single person, not the needs of consumers. It's the physical manifestation of Elon Musk's growing disconnect from the general public. Meanwhile, traditional manufacturers focused on creating the electric vehicles people actually wanted to buy, practical SUVs and efficient sedans. Tesla spent 4 years and billions of dollars building its CEO's personal toy. The Cybertruck is what happens when a billionaire convinces himself that his internet jokes are viable business plans. It's the automotive industry's equivalent of "hold my beer." And the market has responded with a resounding "no thanks." The ultimate marketing lesson is this. You can be a genius, you can be an innovator, but the moment you design a product for yourself instead of your customer, you've started digging your own grave. And so, with the weight of history on his shoulders, the numbers bleeding red, and an ego the size of Texas, the verdict on the Cybertruck seems clear. It wasn't just a single mistake. It was a perfect storm of historic arrogance, poor economic decisions, and a deep absolute disconnect from market reality. The question that remains is, do you think Tesla can turn this situation around? Or will the Cybertruck simply be remembered as the DeLorean of our generation? A fascinating failure and a future collector's car? What do you think they should have built instead? Speaking of companies that bet billions on a single idea, and end up crashing spectacularly. The story of the Cybertruck really reminds me of the collapse of another company that once seemed absolutely invincible. Check out this video about GoPro's failure. The logic behind the disaster will surprise you. It's so similar,